Welcome to the Legendary Upside podcast. My name is Pat Kerrane. You can find all of my content on legendaryupside.com. Unfortunately, I am no longer the defending Best Ball Mania champion, and that is because Farid Shaheed, joining me today, is the new Best Ball Mania champion. Congratulations, Farid, and thanks for joining.
Thank you, man. It's an honor to be here with the previous champ, and it seems only fitting to talk to you guys first.
Yeah, well, we got Liam. Liam won, and you jumped on with him, and now it's my turn. I'm excited to get to talk to you. I guess we were talking before we recorded a little bit about kind of where your head's at with it. Has it started to sink in?
Yeah, it's finally I'm coming back down to earth, and I didn't realize how like not high, but like how like lost I was after all this happened. I didn't really know how to deal with reality for a few days, like leaving stuff like keys all over the place and just like dropping everything. And then finally now I'm like settling down. So it's nice to come back down to earth and just be a human, like be normal
it is it
and
is a surreal.
functional.
Yeah, it's definitely surreal. I'm happy that it all. I mean, it was pretty clean, right? Like you need the Sunday night game to jump into first, and it's the last game. So at least you never had a thing of like, oh God, people are gonna come catch me, which is kind of where I was
Yeah.
last year, where it's like,
I
oh,
yeah, it was the opposite of yours. I was the guy running up to catch the other guys
yep.
to chase them, and you were worried about people chasing you with all that drama going on
And on the Sunday
in the
night game,
game.
I didn't have anyone live in the Sunday night game last year, Ravens Steelers. So I had kind of double dose of that. Um, but yeah, so you had Love and Reed, and so what you were in sixth before that game, right?
Yeah, I was in 6th place, and I thought I was in 8th, but I literally just pulled over to check it, and I saw I was in 6th, and I was like, "Hey, man, if I ladder up just 1 or 2, I'm good. Like, this is ridiculous. I'm even up here." And I thought I had a shot to definitely win, but, it definitely played out best case almost.
Let's
So,
let's back up to Saturday because I have this same trio: Amon Ross St. Brown, C.D. Lamb, and Sam Laporta. Um, and that ended up kind of just by happenstance, partly because I think people were intentionally correlating the Lions and the Cowboys, but also just because like those were two super popular 1-2 turn picks, and then they had really good seasons, and then they had really good weeks 15 and 16. And so just like by luck, it ended up being really, really chalky to have this game stacked. Uh, what
yeah.
were you kind of hoping for Saturday? Did you just want the CD Alpha game? Like, were you good with that, or were you kind of hoping for more from the Lions side?
I was definitely hoping for more from the Lions. I actually thought I was dust after I was watching Njoku. I thought he was gonna score, like, 50 points, man. After the 1st quarter, I was like, "Holy shit." I was like, "There is no way I'm gonna" I was like, "Top 50, if I make 15K, like, that's a blessing." So that's what I was thinking while watching the Saturday game, and CD starts going off, and Dak doesn't get the extra points when he fumbles, so I was kinda like, "Well, that fumble might have helped me out there." Like, I would have been buried if Dak just went 4 tutties and just smashed on everybody, and so that was my thoughts, and I think the 4th quarter, I was like, "Dan Campbell, you didn't get it twice, like, you got F twice, dude, just kick the field goal
Just
and go to
overtime,
OT,
man.
man."
Just
Like,
give us overtime.
yeah, yeah,
I was
that's
right there
exactly
with
what I
you.
was thinking. I was like, "Oh my god, dude." Yeah,
Yeah, that
and look
penalty,
at your
man. That
lineup.
yeah, that was brutal.
Sorry to interrupt.
I would have been happy to have overtime there too. Uh, So, I mean, and you must have been feeling a little bit nervous not having Amari, because Amari was, and I'll share the draft board here because you had obviously that Amari mega game in week 16. I assume was part of the reason you made the final. Such a huge game to
Yeah,
get there, and then he didn't even
I
play.
yeah, that was a bummer. I was just thinking, "Man, Amari, you could've not put up 46 and just put up, like, 30 to make week 17," but,
Just save some of the
I
points.
was Yeah. I week 16, I put up 197. I actually put up more than I put up week 17, so I
Wow.
ran white hot at the end, and I'm sure guys were just, like, pissed because there were some really good lineups in my pod that I just, got lucky with Amari.
Wow, that is awesome. The someone made a comment last year about my team, like, "Oh, just score the two highest scores of the year in the final 2 weeks of the season. It's as simple as that." And it is. I mean, that is what you want to do. So,
Yeah,
it's harder, easier said than done, but uh,
yeah,
that's awesome.
it's very interesting that, people say that, and then I'm thinking that while I'm drafting though too, is like week 16 is really important, but you can't just think about week 16 and try to correlate because week 17 is you're trying to play like it's a DFS slate, in my opinion. Like you need week 17, but week 16, who knows? Someone correlates it really well and it sneaks in and just randomly could perform well. I'm not sure, but I don't have data to prove any of that, but just interesting thought.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about the that part of it, kind of how you built this team, because it seems like very clearly that you were building with correlation in mind. You had the Amon-Ra St. Brown CD Lamb start, but you also had Sam Laporta. Um, did not get Jared Goff in round 12. That was sniped from you, but you took Jordan Love and you had Christian Watson, Alexander Madison, and then the Love pick ends up being super beneficial. You also added Jayden Reed to kind of build out that stack a little bit more. I've heard you mentioned that you got sniped on Tank Dell here with this Chuba Hubbard pick. So you're going to potentially have a Stroud Dell stack there. Um, what are kind of your thoughts on how you put this team together and just sort of the stacking and correlation element?
It's actually really crazy that I've heard you talking with someone from Spike Week. I think it was
Probably
there's a
Eric.
guy he does an inter yeah, Eric, and he did an interview with Rob, and this guy Rob basically called out my lineup perfectly. He was just like sending his thoughts. I don't even know if he heard me even talk about it, but the first I was trying to double stack basically all of my first five or my four out of my five first receivers. So I tried to double stack Pickett or Pickens with Kenny Pickett, and no one I wasn't able to get him. I tried to double stack Dak first, then Pickett,
Well,
and then
Pickett
I was
went
gonna
the
double stack
11th round here.
Goff.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this dude reached. He's hella living a little there, man. Like that's ridiculous.
So
I
you went
especially
Fryermuth to set up Pickett, then went
Yep,
Laporta to set up Goff, and got sniped on both.
exactly. Yeah, I was just like, this is ridiculous, man. And people are like, how could you even remember this lineup? I was like, well, I remember it because this was like the most frustrating one I
This
had.
is
I got
probably
sniped so many
tilting as
times.
hell.
I was like cursing at the guy's name. I was like, Milwaukee, you MFer, dude. Like, what the hell are you doing? You naked golf, you snipe naked golf, and then Jordan
I
Love
want
was
a
my
Lamar
fourth
team.
option.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might have been mad at me.
Yeah, I mean, he probably was. So he went Lamar, Anthony Richardson. So you're done at quarterback. I don't even need to worry about. You can
Exactly.
comfortably take Laporta and get Goff back, no problem. And
That's
then
exactly what my thought was, dude. I was like, he's good at quarterback, so
wow. So, like, was Jordan Love someone that you were? I mean, because you had set up the was this an intentional mini correlation, the Watson Alexander Madison combo?
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. I That was my most stacked game was Minnesota, Green Bay, and Dallas and Detroit were the main two games I tried to stack the most. And so I was getting every piece I could from those two teams.
Was that because of the two teams, or the matchup, or the fact they were in domes, or what
It
was
was
the
the
idea?
fact they were in domes. It was the fact they were in domes, and also I like the primetime games. When I looked at Dallas playing on Saturday and Minnesota and Green Bay being a late night, I was like, this could be a good spot for like making runs to the playoffs. And I thought sometimes the divisional rivals, kind of divisional games, they shoot out enough times. Sometimes the second time they play each other in the year, though, it doesn't shoot out because they've already seen each
Right.
other play the first time. But
Yeah, it seems like there's a higher variance in those divisional games. Sometimes they completely dud, and sometimes they go nuts. So was Love? So you were trying to target this Green Bay Vikings game, but this was a little early for Love, right? Wasn't he more like 13th, 14th? I don't remember exactly where he ended up, but was this kind of, were you just like, I'm sick of getting sniped right now, I'm just gonna lock in Love?
yeah, I was like, dude, I have no like chance of getting a quarterback with someone that I want correlation with, like a stack. I was like, it's gonna be a non-stack team. So I did like Love. I did have a lot of him, but I just kind of had in the back of my mind like Reed's always there. This is easy, double stack.
Yeah,
I try to get double stacks, so that was my thoughts.
nice. Were you where did Musgrave go? Did you consider him? Or yeah, I guess he went 15th. Oh, he went before Reed. Wow. So that wasn't really even an option.
I had a bunch of Musgrave in some of my other stacks, and I had already grabbed Jawan. So and I think Musgrave was going further back in ADP. I don't remember what the closing ADP was or the opening. So I was Jayden
Yeah,
Reed over Musgrave all
yeah,
day.
that makes sense. Um, and so let's see. You had you had a chance here to do the Amari Brees correlation, but you went Christian Watson. So as the as the Brees Hall guy, I gotta ask, did that correlation didn't do it for you? You couldn't have my guy.
Dude, I felt so bad getting off Brees Hall because my first draft, I drafted Brees Hall. I was stoked for him, and then I just heard a lot of people talking bad about him, and it got to my head, and I was like, "Damn, maybe I shouldn't be on Brees Hall." But it's a big mistake because of his pass catching usage, even though it's half PPR. I mean, that dude is legit, actually good at football. So I let people talk. I listen to so much stuff. Sometimes get a galaxy brain, and dude, yeah, nice call on Brees Hall. That dude is a monster.
Well,
I
it
thought I
is
was
funny
very
because you didn't take Hall, you take Watson, who doesn't do much, but continuing to build out that bet wins you the tournament. So it is interesting
yeah,
how the correlation stuff works because like you're it's like, yeah, you kind of just end up on Love because something you did earlier in the draft that didn't actually work, but continuing to make the bet, like you were directionally right, like you wanted to be in on that game and you continued to build out the bet, and that ultimately is what gets you to first place, which is kind of a cool element to my mind of the correlation. It's not that, like, there is some luck involved in it, but it's like you're doubling down on a bet you've already made. And in this case, it's the double down where all the value is. The initial bet didn't help that much.
yeah. The initial Christian Watson, I started to worry about him a little bit too, and I throughout the draft, throughout the drafts, I stopped taking him so much, and I started doubling Love with Musgrave and Reed. I'm not sure if I got him in doubles, but I started stacking Love with as much Musgrave and Reed and taking those guys in the back because I was a little concerned when Christian Watson got hurt. And Brees Hall, I didn't like the Browns and the Jets game as a stack, but it actually worked out and they went crazy. And I remember watching that game and watching Jerome Ford and Brees Hall and Njoku going off, and I thought for sure there's no way I could catch by halftime. I was like, these guys are going to keep scoring, and they just kind of like fizzled out towards the end. In the fourth quarter, didn't do much.
So you shouted out Pete Overzet and David Kitchen from the Swolecast, but I feel like Davis Maddock must have had some influence if you were off that Browns Jets game.
Oh, Yeah, yeah. I kind of am a dome bro, like a indoor game. Like at this part of the year, it always gets me, dude. Like the weather. The aren't you worried about the weather, bros? Like, yeah, Davis Mack did influence did
I mean,
influence
it
me.
gets you to the Packers game. It's pretty big influence.
Yeah,
Just
I really like
trying to get Davis's
the
due
indoor
here.
games. Yeah,
Um,
Short King
well,
Summer, dude. I couldn't fit all the bits in there. You know, I had to choose between Live a Little or Short King Summer, and you know, some dudes were taking Saquon in round one, Zeke round two in my drafts. I was like, those guys are really living a little.
well, yeah. Let me ask you about the live a little because you take George Pickens in the fifth, which wasn't like crazy, but he started. I know this was a later draft, but he started out like kind of more in the seventh, rises to like more the mid sixth. But this would have been a even in late drafts like a little bit of a reach. Um, so what's your thought generally on reaching for guys, getting kind of more of the unique combos versus trying to just scoop value?
I'm trying to like when I'm reaching, I'm trying to deviate from other highly owned like combinations. Like, and I'm only when I'm before I sit down for each draft, I'm like, I only want to reach twice, like two or three times at most. And sometimes the ADP value that falls to you is so good, if you pass it to the next dude, you could wreck yourself if he's out drafting you. So you're like, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a meme, but at the same time, it's like trying to see who's around you and what they're taking so you don't F it up. You know, you could screw it up, you know, if you're reaching in spots. It really depends on who your player takes are and with this, I took George Pickens so many times and DeAndre Swift. I wanted them paired with Amon-Ra, CeeDee Lamb, like a high combo that a lot of people would have. But once I took Amari Cooper, I knew I didn't have much of him. I didn't like clicking Amari Cooper. So once I clicked Amari Cooper, I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and grab the guys I'm taking every single draft that I can, just ahead of ADP. Just that was
I
my
like
thoughts.
I like that. I mean, like I've thought about that too, where it's like I'm not gonna if I'm gonna draft this guy I don't like, I'm gonna draft like the best version. I'm not gonna also take guys I also don't like and get like and create like team hedge. I'm gonna create my version of this of a team with this guy I don't normally like taking and kind of bet on myself that way with this little sliver of differentiation. In this case, being Amari Cooper on your team. I like that approach a lot.
Yeah, it worked out, man. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some wizard for doing it, but that was my thought process, and I got lucky, man. I ran white hot at the end, but um,
You got to run white hot. That's that's part of it. you know, uh, So I've heard you mention live a little. We just don't know. Do you feel like that held up to the, or are you kind of just more into Kitchen's early stuff?
we just don't know. I mean, what early stuff? Like, what are you referencing as far as
Live a
like early
little. I've
stuff?
lived the big smash hit. Live a little. I think everyone loves that one. That was a banger.
Oh, yeah, that one's obviously like that one's got to be number one, but we just don't know. It's a great one, but the Short King Summer, dude, I was taking Tutu and Deontay Hardy. I don't know if Deontay Hardy qualifies for Short King Summer, but
I think
that
so.
was another one that
He's
that
pretty
influenced
short.
me, man. Like Rashid Shaheed. Let's see who else back here. So I mean, Davis did influence me, man, and he did deserve a shout out because Tutu was looking like a smash pick until Cooper Cup decided to come back.
Yeah, although I wish I took a little more Puka and less Tutu. I have to say. Um,
I only had like a few shares of Puka. Yeah, I'm with you there.
well, so let's talk the Peter Overzet connection because Justin Herzig was on a stream the summer he won. He jumped on ship chasing with us for a tournament, so he was streaming with Pete um, the year that he won. Liam was streaming with Pete as his chess coach the year that he won. I've been streaming with Pete for years. And so you haven't done any streams with Pete prior to winning, but you met the Mans in person?
I had seen him at the win, dude, in person, and some
Okay.
person had a token, a man's coin, and I was like, "What the fuck is that?" So, I'm like, "That's the
Did you
man's,"
get?
and
Did you? Do
he
you
was
have
like,
a Mans coin?
"I wish I did." No, I don't. I was like, "How do I get one?" He's like, "Dude, there's only 69 of them, bro." I was like, "What?" I was like, "What is this?"
Well,
So
I
I
feel
had
like you
heard of the
should be able
man's
to acquire a
before.
Mans coin now.
Yeah,
they're, they're not
Pete
that
Pete
valuable.
Overzet connection is real, man.
It's real, man. It's definitely real. Um, to to get back to the team here with the snipes that we talked about earlier. One of the things I thought was interesting was that you got sniped on Tank Dell, and you ended up. I heard you say, I think on Liam's stream, that you kind of were just like, I don't know who to take right now. Ended up taking Chuba Hubbard, and I thought it was interesting that you kind of just like, I'm just going to take a guy that I take a bunch of and like, and it was off structure in a sense, but um, before you got sniped repeatedly throughout this draft, and
Mhm,
at
yeah, it was
certain points,
tilting.
yeah, at certain points you just kind of took the position that made sense. Like you just grabbed Love. I'm sick of getting sniped on my quarterback stacks and grabbing Love. But with the tank snipe, you pivoted to a player that you really liked, and just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on the sniping part of drafting, because it can be extremely tilting. This draft was very tilting, and yet you still managed to draft the team that wins the entire tournament.
It's freaking bizarre, man. My thoughts with Chuba was the last 4 picks were supposed to be Jayden Reed, Tank Dell, CJ Stroud, and then Kyren, so I could have two stacks, like, with their quarterbacks. And once he took Tank Dell, I kinda panicked, and I just sat there and was looking through all the receivers around him, and I was like, "Dude, I can't have just 6 receivers on this one because I wanna get Kyren Williams last, so I need that 5 I wanna have 5 running backs, even though some people were saying this is a robust lineup. I didn't necessarily intend for it to be that way, and it just panned out that way, and because I didn't like the receivers and I just took Chuba because it was just like my brain just went autopilot, like, "Okay, I have, like, 10% Chuba, which isn't a lot, but those guys I trust more, like Chuba, Jerome Ford, Kyren. If they get an opportunity, it could pay off."
So you had Kyron kind of like set in stone here at the end, to the point where you you take a running back here when you're planning on taking a wide receiver. The worst thing that could have happened in retrospect is that that would then push you off Kyron Williams, but it didn't.
Yeah.
Why were you as kind of sold on what happened, that Kyron Williams was going to be a smash?
I was lock button on Kyren Williams, man. It's just like a bias I have towards some players where, like, I watch them play and, like, they remind me of somebody, and it's not anything, like, super sharp. Because Jayden Reed was, like, a bias that I have too, because he's a return man and he splits the defenders well, and I just watch players play and I see, like, sometimes return men can have better vision and he has good hands, so and I wasn't sure if he'll translate to the NFL, but, he was my highest owned rookie receiver next to Quentin Johnson, who Quentin Johnson doesn't look like it's translating to NFL. His skills aren't translating very well, you know?
No,
But
unfortunately
at the
not.
end of the year, yeah. But does that answer your question on Kyron? I mean, it's kinda just like a bias I have towards some guys, even though he doesn't look like he has that speed to get, like, bust open a wide play all the way to the end zone.
Were
Some guys
you
are just,
Do you watch a lot of college football?
I like watching the playoffs once, but, as soon as the draft comes around, I watch all their highlights and
Yeah.
everything, so I'm not really d a deep diver into college ball, but I do watch a lot of highlights.
I do like watching the highlights for, I mean, even I tend to do the college stuff more based on the stats, but I mean, at the very least, watching the highlights just give you, I think it genuinely gives you a sense of like who they are at their best, and that's like important to know. Even though I don't have the tape chops that a lot of the other people in the industry do, but yeah, I always thought Kyren looked. I remember liking Kyren when he came out, just visually, and his numbers were good. His athleticism was obviously terrible, but he was very productive and kind of a fun player to watch. Didn't really have the long speed, but he gets up to speed decently quick. So for me, it was more that you're betting against Cam Akers, and I heard you were kind of out on Cam Akers, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that played a major part, man. I do not like Cam Akers at all, bro. Like I just don't think he's good, and it's
You
not
and Sean
personal.
McVay
Like,
both.
yeah, Sean McVay's not. If he doesn't like you, bro, like once that drama happened with him and Sean McVay, I was like, damn, this Kyren Williams thing might be good. Like, I was Cam Akers had like kind of an attitude or something about what was going on. I don't know the details, but that's not a reason why I took the pick. But once you hear that and you have a bunch of Kyren, you're like, oh, okay. Like, I wasn't. Aren't you worried about, bro? Cam Akers was the number one guy out of the whole draft. I was probably worried about.
Wow, yeah, it's a good one. Um, let's talk structure a little bit, because this, was a zero running back team. You didn't take your first running back until round 6. You also then hit running back pretty hard. As you mentioned, Chuba was kind of not the original plan, but you didn't end up with that many receivers, but you took receivers with your first 5 picks, end up with only 6, just tacking on Jayden Reed at the end. 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends. So finishing out pretty thin at wide receiver, which I'm sure had you sweating when Amari wasn't going in that Week
Yeah.
17 game. But you still had plenty of firepower at the position. What were your kind of general, like, how common was this type of structure for you?
Zero RB happened as a result of me drafting way too many elite QB lineups in the beginning. I have like close to 50% elite QB lineups. So I was like, this is not GTO. This is not a good strat. I can't be too overweight. I need to hammer some zero RB lineups and get some balance in my exposure.
Interesting. So 3 quarterback was not your kind of typical approach. This was actually a way for you to sort of balance things out. Go 0 running back, 3 quarterback.
I would only go three quarterback. Once it got past Dak, I was like, okay, I'm not comfortable just having two. Like, I don't like Daniel Jones. I got lucky just because, variance. But once it got behind like Dak and Tua in that range, I was like, I'm not comfortable just having two guys. And that was just like autopilot. And my brain was just geared towards going three quarterbacks after that round.
So if you had I mean, this was a while ago and maybe you don't remember exactly what you're thinking, but if you had, let's say, gotten Pickett in the 11th round or Goff, kind of one of your first 2 choices at quarterback, do you think you stop at 2, or were you kind of always with 2 as your first, likely to tack on a third?
You know what? If I took Tua and I had Goff or Pickett, if I had Pickett, I might still taken Love just for the true stack of the Madison and
Mhm.
Watson. But if I had Goff, you know what? I probably would have stopped. I probably would just had two quarterbacks and just said, okay, I got my Dallas, Detroit stack I really love, which a lot of people did. And I was like feeling really good. And I might have said, you know what? I'll take someone else besides Jordan Love there. Or I would have got Goff. So I would have just stopped and not taken him anyways. So, yeah, I might have just had two QBs with Tua and Goff.
One of the things that I've been thinking about is, like, there's kind of there's 2 things we're trying. This is an interesting tournament because we're trying to accomplish a bunch of things at once. We're trying to finish top 2 in a 12-team league. We're trying to finish first out of 16 in 2 consecutive weeks, and then you're trying to win a 400 plus person final. And the sort of optimal, like, roster construction, positional allocation to do each of those things might be different. And, I think that 3 quarterback probably is slightly suboptimal for advancing your teams to the playoffs. But, in Leone's manifesto at Establish a Run last year, he did, some of the work there suggesting that 3 quarterback builds are still very strong, especially if you've got them stacked up, as you did. I mean, you had Tua stacked with Mostert, but that was, still, I mean, it's pretty nice to have Mostert this year. Just like, what are your thoughts on kind of the 3 quarterback and 3 tight ends approach when it comes down to those single weeks? I think it's probably a little suboptimal for advancing teams based on the past data. But when you're in single elimination weeks and a large final, I think there are some benefits to having the 3 onesies.
Yeah, that's great. That's funny that you mentioned Mike Leone's manifesto. That's the very first article I read before I started best ball. I start with Mike Leone's article, and then I start with Evan Silva's stuff, and then I just go and find as many free stuff as I can find. And the tight ends thing is, uh, like, since you were mentioning tight ends, I like elite tight ends, but I feel like the first elite tight end was George Kittle. That's where I would start. I didn't like Kelsey or Mark Andrews,
Mm-hmm.
and so if I got Kelsey and someone else in the middle, like Darren Waller, I got a lot of Darren Waller. Like I feel like those are 2 elite tight ends, or so I would just stop there with 2 tight ends because those guys, even though Darren Waller's like not trending well, and I probably wouldn't do this next year, but yeah, if I got Kittle and like Goddard or even Kincaid or someone I was confident in, even Higby or Everett, if I've got Kittle, I'm gonna try and just keep 2 tight ends because I feel like he's elite. So I wanna keep that like 2. I wanna keep it at 2. But once you get too far down towards the middle, I'm like, I need 3. I can't trust just 2 of these guys, even though I don't know what's
Yep.
suboptimal because, we have to run a lot of data through, and each year it changes. So I'm really interested to see what people come up with this year for the next season, and I'll definitely be looking into that.
Yeah, I mean, I could see us switching, because I think the 3 quarterback plus 3 tight end is, it makes me feel a little nervous because I'm like, I don't have, it cost me firepower at the other positions, but you went 0 running back. So you had a lot of your draft capital up top at wide receiver. You immediately pivot to running back. You also drafted, what, 6 running backs?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had six running backs. So you had volume plus a decent amount of draft capital. So it's not like you were particularly weak. If you just look at like kind of dollar allocation to the positions, running back and wide receiver got their due. And then you had a bunch of outs in week 17, including the Sunday night stack, um, for kind of correlation to hit, plus also to get a really strong score at tight end. I mean, I had Laporta on my team, and he got there, almost 12 points. And I was like, that's probably enough. But you get the Juwan Johnson, who's your final tight end pick here. He's the one who hits your lineup. And I mean, that's really sweet that you actually had a really strong score at tight end, and you didn't pay much for it.
Yeah, I was super lucky that that's like a dart throw that might not work out like very often. Like if that yeah, that's not something I would want to target, next year and be expecting that, but Jawan Johnson gets there. Cole Kmet's good. He went right next to him, but the rest of the guys there to get a score from a guy like that with that draft capital was a blessing for that
For
lineup.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think this is another thing that jumps out to me about your team is that um, one of the things I think about Best Ball Mania, given how difficult it is to even make the finals, you have to finish first out of 16 2 weeks in a row, and then you have to finish first out of 441 teams. So that's extremely difficult. It's like unlikely that you're going to do that without getting some awesome spike weeks out of your final picks. And I mean, your last round picks here were super productive. CJ Stroud not in the playoffs, but had obviously an amazing season. I mean, you crushed with all of your last round picks. What any just kind of thoughts? I mean, you got a couple rookies, Jayden Reed, CJ Stroud, a couple backup running backs, undervalued running back in Raheem Mostert out of a backfield and team that you were already betting on with Tua Tagovailoa. So just given that you just absolutely crushed it in the last rounds, any late round philosophy to share?
Yeah, I'll talk about CJ Stroud because I think some people were asking me about him, and my favorite quarterbacks were the rookie quarterbacks were Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud, and I thought the rest were pretty much dust. I didn't like them. So I've drafted a bunch of CJ Stroud and I actually had 20% Mechie because of that. And that was a
Wow.
terrible play. I tried to get as much Tank Dell as I could, but he got so much steam. I was like, man, I can't grab him now. I had that FOMO. Like I had FOMO, but then also didn't want to just grab a guy with that much steam. And
Yep.
all these guys towards the back of my draft were guys that I watch that I think are like alphas pretty much. Like I think Jayden Reed's an alpha. I think CJ Stroud is second to Anthony Richardson. Um, Kyren Williams, not so much. I thought it was just more the Cam Akers thing and the locker room talk, sitting out preseason. Chuba Hubbard is just seems more valuable than a wide receiver to get some running backs back there that can hit your lineup at that part of the draft. So I hope that answers your question, man.
No, yeah. I mean, I wish I took less Bryce Young. I wish I was a little more on Anthony Richardson, Stroud, and and then nothing. I mixed in
Shows
Young as well.
Bryce Young shows some hope. I just haven't done anything on the actual data. It's just that Adam Thielen seems like a guy I'm not sure what his A dot is. So that's what we need to see about Bryce Young is can he get down the field because could be a result of him looking that way. Is maybe Mingo's not the guy.
Yeah, I don't
But
think he
Bryce,
is.
yeah, you don't think Bryce Young
I
is
have more hope for Young than Mingo.
yeah for next year you have more hope for Young than Mingo?
Yeah, I do. I don't. I think they tried to make Mingo a thing at the end of the year, and it just wasn't happening. Um,
Yeah,
I don't have a
let's
ton
give
of hope
Bryce
for
Young
Young,
another.
but
Let's give them another chance next year. If they don't, that would be pretty disappointing. But yeah, I don't just because I don't think guys are good doesn't mean I don't want to see him play. I would like to see that guy play. The Panthers are pretty dust, man. Like it's hard for him to shine and look good when everyone around you is like, Adam Thielen's, getting over his prime, and so we'll see, man.
any thoughts on rookies? Because this team has three rookies: Laporta, 11th round; Jayden Reed, 15th round; CJ Stroud, 17th round. Um, I I'm starting to feel like maybe we're still not high enough on rookies, just given the late season impact that they can have, and just like how outsized those returns are. Um, Jayden Reed obviously being the prime example of that, but also Laporta having that massive Week 15 game. Helping power a ton of teams into the final and into the 1 week further in the playoffs in the first place. So obviously, this team shows you were pretty open to taking rookies, but was how big of a part of your strategy was attacking rookies, and just kind of your thoughts on like where we go from here in terms of targeting rookies.
This year, the draft class I really liked a lot. So I really thought the rookies were actually had a chance this year to get more work. I just felt like it was going to be a great draft class. Like Anthony Richardson gave me a lot of like hope. CJ Stroud, I thought would be able to succeed. The rookie tight ends for sure. I mean, everyone was talking about him, so there's a lot of steam behind Laporta, Kincaid, Musgrave. So I think moving forward is may I really don't know what it's going to look like moving forward because I don't know how I'm going to feel about the next draft class until I sit down and see how the draft actually goes and where they fit in. And that's where I really start to think about what the outcome or the outlook might be for that particular player in that environment on the team, people around them. And I mean, yeah,
Yeah, no,
that's
I
my
mean
thoughts, man. Nothing like
the
super sharp.
the player evaluation obviously is still massive. If this is if you're taking Cedric Tillman or some of these other rookies that didn't really do anything, that doesn't help. But yeah, I just I think especially in these late rounds, right, where like, does it matter that Jayden Reed didn't do a ton early in the season? No, this team was fine without him. And then when he comes on late, it wins you the tournament. So um, I don't know. I think I obviously want to. I haven't really dove into the specific draft class yet, but that's kind of where it's one of the kind of my feelings from this year in best ball. Like, I think I'm still too low on rookies. Uh, yeah. What are your well, just any other kind of general thoughts on this team or best ball, or kind of as you look forward just like to next year about like things you're gonna try to attack differently at all?
Yeah, next year I'm really excited for next year. I am not planning on winning it. I know I will not win it, and I'm excited for to see the next person who wins it, to see what strategy they use. And I'm excited to see the guys who go and run like sims through Excel spreadsheets and try to create a bunch of data that can be relevant to what we saw just like last year and what it'll look like from this year's draft with not just my team, but their own teams and a bunch of other sharp players exposure because all I did was go and find people who won at something I wanted to succeed at and just kind of adjust and deviate from their strategy a little bit and get my own player takes and stuff. So I'm excited to see how people kind of dissect this year and Pete has a lot of those guys on it. You had a guy on Sacrilegious, I think,
Yep,
is one of those pros,
he's
and
pretty
I
sharp.
like watching those. Yeah, I like watching those kind of guys. They don't get enough attention, but maybe that could be good because I mean, it would be nice for them, but I mean, if people aren't going to listen to what they're doing and it could have relevance, then it's up to the
Are you
person who
planning
can
on diving
interpret
into
it.
the playoff best ball stuff?
Yeah, I've been donating some money back into the economy, just jumping in there and just no clue what I'm thinking yet. But yeah, I'm gonna try and get as much as I can. Try to
Well, yeah,
put it.
Sacrilegious has you covered there if you're looking to level up your playoff best ball game for sure. Um, well, I heard on the Swolecast that you were trolling the Sims. Leone put out Sims for this tournament. It didn't have you. I mean, correctly did not have you high enough. So clearly the Sims were wrong. But I heard you were messing with people
Yeah,
on the Sims.
I was trolling several people and just telling them their lineups were dust. I was like, yeah, because they were kind of like they were like, oh, I'm worried about my team, and all their players were healthy, and I was like, dude, I'm missing like two or three guys. I was like, yep, you're dust, bro. No, I was like, you got a full team there, buddy. Like it's kind of like they're like grabbing for attention or something, but it's just it's all fun in the game, like,
I mean, if
it's
you're gonna
part of
talk shit,
you
you got
know
to back it up. So you backed it up.
yeah, I mean, I felt bad though, so I started deleting some of the tweets. I was like, "Man, I don't wanna ruin these guys' days," and they go home, and they're, like, sad, and as soon as I won, I was like, "Oh, shit, man, I gotta go delete this. They're gonna see that I'm the guy who won." I was like, "I gotta win with some class, man, because I do feel bad if I just, dunk on pe dunk on people, like, it's just part of fun of the game, man. That's
No,
just
it's all fun.
it's not personal."
Well, as we kind of wrap things up here, I heard that you're gonna be getting a puppy and a pickup truck is part of your winnings, which is pretty sweet. Congrats on that. And anything else you're looking to do?
Man, I'm gonna go to South America and DJ a little bit and go to some
Awesome.
events and try to take some time off to just kind of relax and after the playoffs. And yeah, what about yourself, man? How do you wind down after the season's over? And
I mean, it's not. It's yeah. I'll let you know when it happens. We're doing playoff contest stuff right now. Yeah, I'm looking forward to
be
getting
locked
out.
in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fun. These are fun drafts, and then we also have the FFPC playoff contest next week, which some about that tournament just like really just gets my gears turning, and I just love kind of trying to figure out where the field is going to go and predicting the ownership on that tournament. And this year, I think is actually even more so like really interesting because I think just everyone ultimately is going to want to play Lamar. It's gonna be like really hard to get off of that. So anyway, so I'll be doing a bunch of that, but I moved out to San Diego in September, and like football started. So I haven't really done a ton of stuff out here. So I'm looking forward to just like getting out and enjoying this place I moved to a little more. Um, and the weather's still nice here, so I'll be able to I'll be able to do that. So
Yeah,
that's what I'll
San
be doing.
Diego is nice weather.
Yeah, yeah,
I used to live in San Diego. That's a great place, man. A lot of cool a lot of cool spots people don't know about on the beach. You got to get out there, man.
I do. Yeah. Where in South America are you going to be DJing, and how long have you been DJing? That's pretty sweet.
Sorry, my headphone. I'm gonna go to Peru. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
I'm gonna be going to Peru and Colombia, and I've gone to Mexico a few times to play, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's kind of dangerous sometimes. You get around the wrong crowd. You know, you gotta just be cognizant of the type of people around you, and it's like techno and house music, so like raves and stuff. But the reason why I left because I've been sober for 2 years, and once you go down there, you're gonna party, have a little bit of fun. So,
I feel you.
uh,
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, enjoy it. Congratulations. It's just an awesome team. Uh, really psyched for you, and thanks so much for coming on.
thanks, brother. Appreciate you for having me, man.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you next time. I'll have more content on this feed with playoff best ball stuff very soon. We'll see you all then. Take it easy.